So I'm sitting here. I just got out of the shower, and I just had a ton of memories hit me like a ton of bricks. Um, you guys know, I've told you guys little snippets of what I've been through in my life and like things like that. A lot of it, like I can like not even think about it day to day. Most of the time, it's like not even on my radar. I can totally go through my day and be fine, like a normal person, I guess. But every once in a while, I see something or I hear something or something like that, and a memory or a time in my life that was really painful, and it comes and hits you like a ton of bricks. So I wanted to share this. You know, I'm all about sharing my journey here and right now. I'm going I'm processing these emotions and for the first time in my life processing them with a clear conscious and a clear like thought process and not with through anger. I like a lot of my childhood and a lot of growing up all through my 20s, I channeled everything through rage. I didn't channel it through anything else. I didn't process anything. um I processed it all through rage. I just raged out from the time I can remember, from the time I was a kid. Like, I was just rage. I was full of rage. I was angry. I was angry at just so many things. And now, as an adult, as a 30, almost 35-year-old, I'm processing these things. It's almost like I'm grieving for the childhood that I had or didn't have. I'm just grieving this whole, I'm like trying to, I guess, heal my inner child. And so sometimes these memories come up. Well, I read something, a meme is what made me think of this. Okay, so I was sitting here, read a meme on Facebook about how libraries are a luxury. And I'll tell you, as a poor child, like literally dirt poor, like seriously so poor, like we never had food. Like if we had food, it was like for the first week around the first, or it came from a food bank, things like that. Um, and my life wasn't always like that. Like my childhood, it came and went in waves. My mom would get okay, we would be fine for a little while, and then she would get back on drugs, or her mental illnesses would wreak havoc, and we would all have to deal with that. Um, but these times of my life, the times that they were really, really bad, were like my very formative years. They're like years that where I was like being shaped and things like that. So this time in my life that I'm thinking about, that came back to me, thinking about libraries and how they basically saved my life as a kid. Yes, I am sitting here in a towel. It's just, it all came. Sage, stop it. Stop that. Um, there was a voice inside of me. I remember being 8 years old. I must have been like 8. I was in 5th grade. I know that I was as tall as the bookshelves in the children's section. I remember that of the libraries. And we lived in Ketchikan, Alaska, southeast Alaska. And I remember something guiding me. I was so aware. Even back then, it was so strange. Like I had this ability to view myself like zoomed out. Okay, so I had the ability to like in my mind picture, and I still have this ability. It's strange. I don't know if anybody else thinks this way. If you do, please let me know. I know I've just always thought this way, where like I can zoom out of my problem and zoom out of my life and just zoom out and see myself from a broader perspective. I've always been able to do that. So I've always been hyper aware of like myself and where I am and like where I am relative to other people and all of that. So um but something I was always so aware but there was always like this guidance, this like this voice or something. I can't explain it. It was just like my intuition. It was just like I don't know, maybe you could explain it the same way birds know when it's time to migrate. It's like there's just this knowing that I've always felt deep inside of me, and it's always led me to safer places. It's always led me to safety. It's always helped me survive the worst times in my life. And a lot of the times this voice or this intuition, this knowing, it guided me to the library. Like, even when I was pregnant with my first son, like my first child, I was 19 years old. We had just moved down here to Virginia. I didn't know anybody. I had no friends. My husband at the time, he worked all day long. And then he started working nights, but when he worked all day long, I would be alone all day. And I was 19, I was pregnant. I was like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to drive. Like, it was just, I had never worked before. I had no friends, none of that. But in times like that where I was like totally lost and totally on my own, it felt like, and kind of like fending for myself and trying to soothe and comfort myself, this guidance and this voice has always led me to the library. Everywhere I've been, ever since I was a kid. I remember sitting in Ketchikan, Alaska, near downtown. There's the public library down there. And you would have to walk down these steps. It was a 2-story library. Upstairs was the adult section, and downstairs was the kids. And you'd walk in, and the librarian would be right there. And they had this room where you could like rent out shows, or they were like VHSs. This is like back in the 90s. And they would let you rent out the room and watch a movie in there. And I remember spending so much of my time doing that because it was my only safe space. It was the only time in my existence that I was able to just be a kid and watch cartoons. And I remember sitting in that room. They had like these, like those mats, you know how like they have in gyms for kids. They had these mats you could lay on, and there was like kids' bookshelves in there too. And it had a little window in the door. The door was right there, and it had the little TV, and I would lay in there for hours, you guys. Kitty, what are you crying about? What are you going on about? And yeah, and it just hit me, and I just sat here and cried for a good 20 minutes. Of course, Jaxie, she felt the sadness, so she came to comfort me. She literally felt it. Like, as soon as it hit, she came out of Allison's bedroom and came and sat on my lap and pulled me out of that. I was kind of getting lost in that memory, and I was grieving because it was like really sad that I had to do that. And I remember that same time in my life, I would always like find a friend, and I would like attach myself to this person. Because they had a family, because they had loving parents that fed them every day, and like, you know, were interested in them doing good and interested in what they were doing. Like, and my mom, she, like, I just can't imagine my daughter being gone for weeks at a time and never feeling the need to go ask questions about where she is. Even my son, who lives in Alaska, I'm constantly like checking up on him, texting, hey, are you okay? Talking, like, you know, wanting to be in communication. Like, I don't understand how my mother was so wrapped up in, like, what was more important. You know, what that, like, it was so damaging to feel not cared about in a sense where nobody even checked up on me. And I was gone. You guys, I was 8 and 9 years old, and I would be gone for weeks, living at my friend's house for as long as their parents would allow me to. And I would stay and stay and stay until one day they had the talk with me. And it's like, Jennifer, you gotta go. It's like, well, shit, man. Now I gotta go back to an empty house and no food and nobody that loves me or cares about me. And here I actually feel like I matter a little bit. Oh, it's so sad. And I've had to work through this thing that I do, that I notice that I do. I had to work through it because people started taking it differently than I meant it. So, like, when I would go visit my sisters, I knew they were so busy and their houses were dirty. Okay? Understandable. They're working their asses off, going to school, like, totally being independent women. I go to their houses and I clean. I clean because I feel like I need to contribute somehow. Otherwise, I'm in the way. And so, like, I had to get over this thing where I would go into people's houses and start cleaning because, like, they started taking it as I thought I was better, or I was, like, judging them for having a dirty house. But it's like, it was a trauma response of feeling like I needed to be doing something, otherwise I'm in the way and I need to leave. If I'm not contributing, somehow I'm in the way and I need to go. These are painful things to work through. Painful things to acknowledge about yourself, painful things to acknowledge about parents and family and stuff, and it sucks. But I know I have to feel these things, and I know I have to grieve these things, and I know I have to process all this and let myself cry and just keep crying until I feel better. Because that's going to help me heal. That's going to help me move on stronger and, you know, just keep fighting. I don't have anybody to talk to here. You know, as soon as I bring anything up to Mark, it's a fight. It's blaming me for my things that I've been through. Like, he's literally told me some of the worst shit you could tell somebody. Like, you know, no wonder everyone left you and nobody wants to be around you because you're crazy. Nobody cares about you. Nobody's going to care about you. You're too much for everybody. And I have to keep overriding these things. I have to keep overriding this shit. Something in me is continuing to make me fight. And something inside of me is continuing to see the bigger picture and know that this is just a hiccup. You know, it may be the longest hiccup on the fucking planet of 13 years, but, you know, it's a hiccup. It's a learning thing. So, anyway, guys, I've been rambling. I love you all. Thank you for listening. If you got this far, if you did, leave a heart emoji so I know that somebody heard me.